I'm really pleased today, actually, because we're joined by Ollie, the CEO of Angry Dynamites Labs. And I just wanted to jump straight in, as always, a little bit from you, Ollie, about who you are and how you came to found the project.
Just before we get into that, let's have a quick word from our sponsors who make this show possible.
Moniverse is an art-based project that uses the power of NFTs to hone in on culture and bring it to the forefront. Their aim is to connect communities from across the globe via the most iconic monuments and champion artists and the legacy they create. Moniverse gives holders a unique experience in which they can travel back in time to see what man's greatest creations looked like upon conception via an immersive and educational experience that displays history, art and culture with guided tours via their AI-powered guides. The first drop successfully launched on the 11th of November and featured the stunning Archer piece in Milan, Italy. Following episodes will continue to expand the Moniverse and allow holders access to in-real-life events and further growing out the understanding of the incredible world we live in. Links to find out more will be provided in the description below.
Yeah, first, thanks for having me. Really excited to be on the podcast. Yeah, I'm Ollie. I was the former co-founder and CTO of Colibri Games. With Colibri Games, we developed mobile games for Android and iOS, worked on Idle Miner Tycoon, which attracted more than 200 million players and had over 10 million monthly active users. And from the success of this game, we could build up the whole company. In the end, we were 120 people when we sold the company to Ubisoft for a 9-digit exit. And that's basically how I went into gaming and did a successful exit already. But now I want to go into Web3 because I think that's way more exciting. There's way more potential. And I think that's where the future of gaming is. And that's why I want to be part of that.
If I'm completely new, I know nothing about it, how would you explain it to me?
Angry Dynamites Lab, the story is that an asteroid is crashing into the Earth, wiping out the human race, and then the Dinos are reborn. So basically the other way around, and it was 200 million years ago. And then basically these Dinos are now in this devastated new world. Dinos, if you know, they don't have very big brains, they're very clumsy, and they need help to survive in this world. And that's where the players come in and help them to kind of build up the world again, or kind of help them to leave the world and find a new home somewhere else. So what you can do is we have 4 different collections. We have 2 minted out already, the water and the fire dinos. And then there will be the earth and air dinos coming at probably next year. And these dinos have these elements which produce the raw resources that power the game. So a fire dino produces fire tokens, a water dino water tokens, and all you need to do is just hold them in your wallet. So now we have these tokens, and then you can craft new tokens out of that, new resources. And so for example, you can use a fire and a water token to produce steam. You have a steam token and more fire token to produce energy, hydrogen, and so on and so forth. So you can build up these kind of production lines starting from these core raw materials to more and more higher level tokens. And in the end, you can build up objects together with the community to help the dinos survive. And these will require a lot of these resources. And so basically the goal is to build up this bigger and bigger production lines, create more and more resources. We will also integrate a skill tree where you can then specialize in certain production lines. You trade and work together with the community and help the dinos to survive.
As someone who plays a lot of games, and I wanted to actually kind of directly take that skill tree line that you used a moment ago. A big part of why I've always enjoyed gaming is progression, right? It's what people thrive on. They want to be able to take a character from a very elementary level and actually build them up and progress them. But often to get to that high level, you really need to be able to understand the game and to be able to understand the process. From your experience in Web2 gaming, which is obviously incredibly prolific, how do you think onboarding users, not only to your game environment and your game world, but also to Web3, how are you going to actually tackle that? Because it's a big difference, in my opinion, at least.
Exactly. It's a very big difference. So first of all, the audience in Web3 is still comparably small to the Web2 audience. So I think you need to find ways how you can also work. So we are building a multiplayer game, like also make it work with not that many users, and also make sure you can still attract users from the smaller audience from Web3. And therefore we want to decrease the barrier of entry as much as possible. So for playing our game, you don't actually need one of our NFTs. You only need the tokens, the resources, and they are way more and they are way cheaper than you need with an NFT. We even are currently thinking about like ways on how we can onboard users without needing to acquire any assets so that they can start playing the game immediately without any wallet creation and interactions and so on, and only later get introduced by that. So I think that's also an important step then to also try to find ways on how we can target the Web2 users, because they probably don't want to create a wallet, try to buy cryptocurrency somewhere. They're afraid maybe. So we need to find these ways, and that's what we are trying to do and have some ideas there already.
I think as a sort of big crypto guy myself, what I really kind of stuck out for me on this is how interesting the economy is actually going to be, because you've got these multi-layers that you're combining the different tokens to create new tokens and more complex tokens, how their values are going to be maintained, and people are going to, so much smarter people than me would be like using this as like an arbitrage opportunity between the different levels of the economy and the resources that you have, and then obviously that feeding back to the NFTs themselves that generate it, and they also generate an amount based on rarity. As a bit of a nerd myself, I can see that being really interesting and definitely appealing to like a niche sector of the crypto gaming market.
Actually, I think a lot of people in the Web3 crypto market, they are quite analytical. They're often like a little bit like traders. They really like to optimize stuff. They like to look at numbers and so on and so forth. So I think this is like actually quite appealing to them, because it's like a constant optimization game. You always need to look out for what's the market price for some tokens, which tokens can I buy in cheap, which tokens can I sell more expensive, and then kind of, create this arbitrage opportunities, which I think are very interesting. And then you can, of course, if you make a profit on arbitrage, can reinvest it in the game and then kind of build more and more production lines. Also, on the other hand, we want to make it possible to also add a grind factor to it, so that people who are maybe not able to look at the market prices 24/7, that they can rather like, okay, I can do a daily quest and so on and so forth, and still kind of progress, because they put more the time effort into that instead of like trying to come up with Excel sheets or something like that. So I think what we want to do is our goal is always to create a game for everyone. We want to create incentives for people who want to spend maybe 5 minutes a day in the game. We want to have 30 minutes, hours, and so on and so forth. So you can decide like on which level of like how deep you want to go in. And I think that's something we have some quite good ideas on, and definitely want to explore that.
I think that what you're talking about is key, though, for actually building out an ecosystem, which is that you do appreciate you are going to have a hardcore audience. I've heard quite a lot of people, not just within the gaming sector of NFTs, but just in general, talking about the need to drop the jargon, the phrase NFT, and all the extras that come with it. The big one which kind of strikes me at the moment with the product that you guys have put together is the word tokens. And obviously, tokens are used frequently throughout any board game that if you play board games to any sort of level, you'll have regularly heard tokens used, right? I just wondered your thought process behind calling them tokens, and whether or not you'd considered using a more, I don't want to say Web2 phrase, but something which is a little bit more familiar with that huge player base that you've previously built.
So in game, we will more talk about resources or materials, and that's what we'll communicate. But I think it's also important to show the benefits of these resources being tokens on the blockchain, because I think in the end it's a quite cool thing and it opens a lot of new opportunities. So I think it's important to kind of have like something which is not kind of where people don't get afraid when they hear the word, but still communicate why these resources as tokens are important. And that's our approach, like kind of call it resources, but then find ways and how the people can understand what the advantages are when they're on the blockchain.
So obviously the game has got a lot of different layers to it, and for any player coming into it, they've got a lot of things to kind of get to grips with. I read the white paper, I've had a look at the website, I found it fairly easy to understand what's got my head around it, but I've got a bit of obviously a background playing some of these games. How do you get the message out there to new players and people looking to get into the game? How do you describe that level of complexity without overwhelming them?
So we started out with building a white paper, and our goal was always to build a white paper so that people can understand what we are doing. So we don't want to create very scientific terms and a lot of calculations. It should be very easy, a lot of pictures explaining what is the core idea and so on and so forth. And then also trying to simplify the core mechanics as much as possible. Although it can get quite complex, but I think the core, I described it earlier, is very straightforward. And that's also what we wanted to describe first. And that then people can get into the smaller bits and parts and optimization sides. And also to make it easier to kind of get feedback very fast from our community, but also to educate our people or our community, is that we are doing kind of a staged release over time. So we are not building the game now for 2 years and then find out that it maybe doesn't work or it's like too complex. So we started out with the smallest thing we could do is like dropping the Dynos and make them produce tokens. That's the stage where we are in right now. We started with the fire Dynos in June. We did the second drop of the water Dynos in October, 3 weeks ago or so. And now we have like 2 raw tokens, which we can use to build up new tokens to do this crafting part. And that's now the next step, what we are working on and what we are planning to release in around 2 to 3 months. So if you compare that to other gaming projects, which take years, we really want to be fast because we want to get the community involved, want to get feedback and try to adjust because it's a new field, it's a new kind of area, and we need to kind of learn fast and adapt fast, and that's why we want to get out as fast as possible.
Two things that really strike me actually off the back of that is the pace that you want to move at. That's the first one. And I think it's key because a lot of other projects that because we go to a lot of different NFT and crypto events, like half a dozen already this year, if not more. And one of the biggest things I've always noticed when we've spoken to teams that are building a game platform is that they're not that bothered about time, and actually they're going to more often than not kind of be quite relaxed on it. But I actually think that's been one of the biggest turnoffs for me as an avid gamer, is this huge delay that people expect their player base to wait on. You know, we live in an era where platforms like TikTok and Instagram are incredibly effective because it's quick, straight to the neurons. You get that video or whatever it is really quick. And so for me, I like the fact that you guys are approaching it with speed, still precision, but it's that I will get the product a lot quicker. And I just wondered if that was really based off of your experience in Web 2 and whether or not you see a lot of similarities between how you expect the player base to interact with the game you're building now on the platform, whether you think it'll be quite similar to the audience that you had previously.
I think time is always against you. So you need to kind of be fast to kind of, not get lost or something like that, or kind of be beaten by others or lose the attention span of your community. And I think in Web3, that's even more the case because we have a community now and the community likes the project and they believe in it and they're also holding on to the Dynos. But if we would now wait for too long, they will get bored. They will get distracted by other things. Maybe other cool projects are coming out. So there's of course like a lot of competition. And then, people will leave. And then all the hard work we put in also to build up this community would be lost. And that's why I think the sense of urgency is super important. We just talked about it in our teams. In our team, we need to get things out as fast as possible because time is ticking. Every day, every minute, it's against us, and therefore we need to be fast. And I think if you compare it to the Web 2 world and Web 3, it's ticking way faster. If you see like what's happening each day from day to day. Like there's so many new projects coming out, and therefore you also need to kind of be fast to stick out and to be faster than others.
Nice. Tell us a bit about your community. How was it putting it together? What kind of feedback are you getting from them about the things that you've released so far? And how are you doing the hardest fight in NFTs, which is to keep them engaged on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, it's always a challenge. Yeah, so we started out with talking to a lot of people one by one. We had like a white paper and a website up, trying to get as much feedback. We did a lot of iterations during the time already from the feedback we got. And I think that helped us already in the very early days to kind of better shape the project and the product we want to build. And then we worked with a lot of communities together, worked a lot with the CyberKongs, for example, with Bears Deluxe and a lot of other projects, like kind of spreading the word. For us, it was very important that we don't go this hype road too much and rather make it small, grow it small and sustainable. Because in the end, it doesn't help us if we build a lot of hype and then we drop something and then people say like, okay, that's it, and I'm leaving again. We rather want to put out the word about like what we are doing, what we're trying to achieve, and why we as a team, as an experienced gaming team, can actually execute on the idea. And that's how we slowly built the community. We did the first drop with 500 NFTs only. That sold out quickly, but it was a smaller drop. We didn't aim to raise not a lot of money. It was more like to get this community engaged and kind of being holders, part of our team as we see them. And then we did the second drop, which is now slightly larger with 1.5K NFTs. So we're doing it step by step and more like slower but steadily growing the community. And now, of course, there's like a gap between like the last drop and the release of the game. So we are working out a lot of initiatives. We're working on a small mini game to kind of get people engaged, where they can also win prizes like NFTs, or like discount codes for our next collections and so on and so forth. And also to kind of establish a more like Web3 gaming hub where we can share news, where we talk with the community about like upcoming games, projects, what the market is doing, to give a purpose about gaming to our community so that they have something to talk about. And I think that's also the best topic for us gaming, because we are a game. And these are the ideas we are currently executing.
I think it's nice as well that you guys have realized obvious things, like it is important to hone in on the fact you are a game, so having gaming relative conversation is key. You mentioned as well that you were working with CyberKongs, or at least had conversations with them, and I'm pretty sure that part of the process is that you're going to be integrating other blue chip projects into the game as well. I'd love it if you could tell us a little bit more about how that's going to work.
So I've told you before that we are integrating we are having 4 raw material tokens, the fire, water, air, and earth tokens. But we can also add other tokens from other NFT projects as raw resources. So instead of just having fire, we can also add a banana token from the CyberKongs and then deeply integrate it into our game experience, so that you can maybe use a fire resource and a banana resource to make a banana pie, for example, or any other things, right? And therefore we will have... we want to integrate it because now it's possible in Web3. It's like tokens lying on the blockchains, and the users or the players are owning them, and they can decide what to do with them. But we are also creating win-win situations, because especially last year there was like this big hype about these PFP projects, and they got big communities. And they are, of course, asking, okay, what's next? So a lot of them launched fungible tokens, but then what can they do with that? And what we can offer is like to integrate the tokens and give these tokens instant utility. And on the other hand, these projects can help support us spreading the word, and therefore we can attract more users to our game. So I think that's just like a win-win situation for both sides. And we are planning now with, like, after releasing the first version of the game, to integrate like 3 more tokens. So we're in talks with the Cyberkongs, we're in talks with the Bears Deluxe people, we're exploring some ways with Sandbox and the Sand token. And so that will be quite exciting to also see like how this in the end works, kind of build this open, decentralized meta economy layer.
Nice. I think those collaborations are key in the market the way it is. Just sort of helping other communities, helping each other out in the market seems to be a really strong play for any project. What is the kind of next big step for you guys? What's the next big milestone in terms of what you're working on at the moment? And if people do want to get involved, what is the best way to go about that?
So we're working on multiple things, but the biggest focus is, of course, on executing the core game. So we are doing this with full force. We hired actually a lot of people, like we are getting to 6 people soon, which work on the game, hired a product lead, hired more engineers, and so on and so forth. So we will have full manpower on the game itself. But we also want to make sure that the community is kind of gets to know the updates, and also like the mini games I talked before, and the Web3 gaming hub which we want to create. These are things we are also working on, and so we are planning to release the next big milestone is the game, which is planned for January next year. And if you want to get to know more, I think joining our Discord is probably a good idea. There, where most of these mini games will take part. So as we want to have like this co-op experience, we also kind of create these mini games around co-op experience as well, where you need to work with the community to kind of achieve goals and then benefit together. So that's definitely a good point to start. And also, like, of course, if you want to get into the project, we have like the fire dinos and the water dinos out there. Earth and air will come later, but definitely all the other collections will also have a higher supply. So having one of these early ones will definitely be helpful for the game, because the fire dinos will be the only resource to generate the fire tokens, which are then needed in the game. So you can also get some on the secondary market.
We'll obviously drop all links below, because I think it's for us, it's really nice to be able to highlight projects that people might have missed, because there is so much misery and gloom around the space right now, right? And it's nice to be able to speak to someone who is, like, for you guys, it's amazing that you're actively looking at the market and going, we don't care, we're going to bring on more people, we're going to grow the product out, we're not fussed about what the market conditions are like, we're happy to attack this. The final question I'm going to kind of finish on that we have for everyone we ever have on the podcast is really a bit of a loaded one, but I'm going to go for it anyway. I need you to sum up the project in 1 minute or less.
Yeah, so we are building the meta economy layer of the Web3 world, and therefore we are building Angry Dynamites Lab, where you basically get NFTs that produce multiple tokens, which you can then craft new tokens on and build objects to help the dinos survive in this new world. So it's a co-op experience where you as a community work together, building up these objects, producing and crafting more and more tokens, and kind of build up your lab empire, production empire, so to say. And we want to integrate tokens from other projects, making it an open economy layer for all the Web3 projects out there, and also make it possible for other games to use our economy layer to build up games on top of that. That's the bigger vision. And that's what we're trying to achieve with Angry Dynamites Lab.
It's like I said, Ollie, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, obviously, from Angry Dynamites Lab today. Like I said, we'll drop all links below so that everyone can find out where they can check out a little bit more about the project, and more importantly, jump in the Discord. I think that's always the best way. I've been in there quite a little bit recently, and I can see you guys have a really tight community, so it's a great way of jumping in. And I think from when I asked a few questions, it's been super receptive. People have been really open to kind of chatting about the project, and it's nice to see someone building something pretty organically. So yeah, as I said, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on today. I've been your host, Calcio, joined as always by my fellow host, Jimmy T. And yeah, we hope to see you again on the Right Click Save podcast. Have a good day.